welcome everyone. What a talented crowd we have. Thank you all for coming to our first speaker event of EOS North County San Diego. Woo! Yay! Just the beginning. And we are very fortunate, and I am very, very grateful that our guests and speakers have come out today from all over the country, but I just cannot thank everyone enough, Walmart Labs, for hosting us. David, who I think is back out there, you probably have met, is our host, and has a past in the San Diego startup community as well, which is how we met. Thank you, David. Yeah. All right, good. Be sure to say hello to David. And very big thanks to CSX and to EOS San Francisco for coming down to be with us today and to begin to enlighten us on how we can start as entrepreneurs and developers using EOS to add value to our experiences we're creating. And without further ado, I will turn it over to you to introduce yourselves and proceed, and then we'll have some questions after and hang out a bit and be done by around 7.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Vogt. I'm a software developer and building a lot of the applications that we're going to be using on the EOS network. My background is in the business intelligence space, and I moved into blockchain about a year ago.
Hello, I'm Max Info. Work with CSX and EOS SF. I have a background in community engagement, focus on software architecture.
My name is Trent Bullock. I'm CEO of CSX. I have a background in DevOps.
Hello, I'm Brandon. I have a background in aviation, sales, marketing, and I co-founded with Max, EOS San Francisco, TELGRAM San Francisco, and have the EOS Podcast.
Hi, I'm Dwayne. I'm with CSX. We're from Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Background is in agriculture, so I grew up in a farm, came back to maybe bring some equity in that supply chain. So we were a little bit ahead of our curve where we were tracking things and trying to create value for different things in the supply chain. And had the opportunity to get into crypto really early, and it's just really exciting now that the tool set is there, that the blockchain tools that we use for real business and overlay are there. So that was kind of my passion. That's why I'm there and have a successful career in building relationships with, from the farm to big companies, and now you overlay some new values on how we can bring all the different participants in these supply chains together to create more value. It's pretty exciting. I guess I'll tell you what CSX is. We started in 2014. We're one of the first crypto companies that incorporated in Wyoming. The focus back then was to develop a portal that we thought would give us a clue of what we should do in the crypto space. Without a technical background, I've been a program manager, but I'm not a technical program manager. I got in over my head and put all my take internet money into trying to develop something and see if this space was real. I didn't trust wallets, so I wanted my own wallet. And we had very lofty goals in the beginning. We had incredible experts around us that really made me think completely different about security, about sovereignty of my information, and what was possible in this new space. And I put my resources into learning, and I went to every crypto conference I could. And through those days and ages, we met really good friends and people that had integrity. That I think the whole team of 13 people with CSX was all found at these events and just kept in touch. And alignments aligned because finally we found a technology that we could use, and that was EOS. So before the launch of EOS last June, Trent called me up and informed me that I had been missing the boat on something important. I didn't believe him because I'm pretty sharp on all these things, but he got me just into EOS before they launched. And it was momentous for us because block producers, individual companies around the world, were putting together their technical team to try and support an international network of complete strangers going out on a limb to say, we think that this new D+ EOS is going to be so good that we're going to take time out of our lives to support this new network. We got in just a couple months before launch, and with Trent's help, were able to be one of those block producers. And it was, it made history for us to be with people that spent a whole year in big teams, and whether it was investment or self-investment or big communities from China supporting these efforts to support a launch of a distributed software that a company was gifting the community. Quite a clever liability way of doing it, just to gift it to a community, but to see that there was a community that was organized and passionate to actually be up to the task to launch this software that kept them coming out with new releases. Anyways, that was very interesting because that first accounts in this network were used to drop all these other tokens from apps that will use the space technology. So it was really nice to kind of, you see your wallet every day fill up with other tokens to get my attention to try out this technology. And I'm a bad user. A lot of them made me go through too many clicks, and I really didn't know what they did. One of the first apps that Max and some friends told me to use was Lumios, that didn't ask for too many clicks, asked me some survey questions, and rewarded my wallet with a bunch of money. And I'm like, ooh, there's something here. There's something here now that they got me, that I don't have. The technology was great, but if there's something now that I know that we can onboard, clients, customers, a little bit easier. We took the role as a block producer to support the network, to build a resume, so that we look back in time. You don't have to believe me on what I say. You can look at the chain that we were a good steward to support this new technology. Most of these other block producers were financed and did a lot of marketing and almost political work to get the whole community of EOS holders to say, vote for us. So as a user on EOS, you have a vote and a stake to do more than just move your EOS tokens around. So what attracted me in the first place when Trent told me about this technology was that there's a whole governance layer that the user has some control and has some say using the system. As a block producer supporting these networks, it was really neat to see how they developed that in the old crypto space. When something went wrong and there was a hard fork, we were all worried and communities splintered. It's really interesting. You heard the name of Telos. Telos is like a sister chain. There's different chains that are based exactly on EOS that are actually complementing the whole system. Little experiments to try out, the edges of what can be possible on equity towards, token holders, and I guess just different experiments. So we're at a stage where we've been working hard to come out with the first tools that we want to use, this governance layer and incentivization on EOS, really to start leveraging some of the business relationships I've had over the years to make it easy for a brand to reward their customers and interact with the blockchain. So if we do our job right, you won't hear blockchain and there won't be too many clicks to try and incentivize people. And the real goal is to show them the light that this model really is going to empower us as consumers to protect our information and to give us a voice, not only that we have some tokens in the wallet, but we can use these to form communities, reward communities, and extract value in a different way than we had before.
EOS is a blockchain technology that has figured out a way basically to run with zero fees, so that you can transfer money without the fees that are associated with Bitcoin. That's one of the holdbacks, the user experience holdbacks, is that it costs money to transfer value. So EOS has developed technology that doesn't cost money. That's one of the biggest points of friction in blockchain. It's also made it close to free to start an account. And so EOS is really focused on the user experience and bridging the gap between this really technical experience and bringing it to the standard user. And so where we're at right now is EOS is a blockchain focused on user experience. And I think that's the most simple way to look at it. We're at the point now where the technology's there. We just need to find a way to bring it to people's cell phones in a few clicks. And EOS is a blockchain that's trying to make that happen. So I have a crypto wallet on my cell phone now that I log in with a thumbprint, and I can send money to Max within 10 seconds. I can ask him his address. He can there's human readable addresses, so you can say Max Infeld, type Max Infeld into my cell phone, and it's like an email. It's basically as quick as sending an email with my cell phone. So that, to me, is the simplest way to explain what EOS is without getting into the real tech behind it.
So just imagine a DAC, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Community, Corporation, Organization. DAO is another term that's used. Just imagine an organization enabled. So just think of what do you need to form an organization, right? Right now, traditionally, what you would do is you would go to a state government, you would file the right paperwork, you would pay your fee, right? And you incorporate in that state, right? But your corporation is in that state, right? So now we have the ability to form organizations on the blockchain. How do we do that? You have a constitution, you have an agreement of this is how the organization is going to operate, this is what the expectations of the members are in an organization, right? So the members fulfill those requirements, right? And they sign that constitution. Now they become a member of that organization. Okay. So now this organization is a global organization. What are the advantages of that? One advantage would be you can tap into global talent around the world to actually solve problems, right? And globally, people could experience value from that organization.
Yeah, so we launched a DAC, it was May 22nd in Puerto Rico, so we made one of these decentralized communities. I think there's 10 custodians, and those are you could say, pre-elected board members. So we elect ourselves in as these individuals that could vote on issues. So we collectively vote, and we sign these with our cryptographic keys on chain. Then those funds are immediately transferred to these other individuals. The KROWN token allows us to engage our community, and then secondarily allows us to empower other communities. Within our community, we voted to put them into programs to reward people for engagement. One of them, Kai, our camera person over here, she was our first recipient of the KROWN tokens. So vendors come to us and say, hey, I want to make an app to engage other communities. We can say, here's a bunch of tokens to build this application, and then those, that app is built and offered to some other community, and within those applications, those participants can earn tokens. So with CSX, we're building some of these applications that allow users to basically earn these KROWN tokens through some point system, where it could either be through answering notifications or answering survey questions. So we have, in the pipeline, we have some of these apps being built. The first one that CSX is being built, the internal title is called Pod, but I think we're going with the title Wet. And this app is basically creates codes that marketers can put into products. And one iteration would be a scratcher ticket. So the user discovers a scratcher ticket in a product, then they put the code into our app, and it shows how many points they've won, right? And then there's a chatbot that engages them and says, hey, do you want to answer some more questions and earn some more points? And then when the time is right, the user can redeem those points for our KROWN token. And all these applications are powered by the KROWN token. So if the marketer wants to use these applications, they would have to pay with KROWN to use it. So basically, we're taking out a lot of middlemen in this process, making it more equitable for engagement between that community and their user. And over time, we can build metrics with these applications. And Rebecca's the engineer of this application. She can go into a little more detail about that as well.
One of the things that this application is going to do is it's not going to force users to already be knowledgeable about the blockchain or the EOS network or anything like that. So we really want to bridge that gap between the average person and the blockchain community. And one way we're doing that is within these applications, you're earning points, which is different from tokens. So you get that scratch ticket, you talk to this chatbot, you're earning points for every interaction you have. You can take that and actually redeem it for discount codes, some kind of swag, whatever the vendor has decided they want to offer up. But you also have the option to pull those points out into KROWN. So they will have like an equivalent value in KROWN or whatever other token is available for the application. It's making it available to everybody and potentially providing a gateway to learning about blockchain instead of creating an application that requires you to already know what this is and have a wallet before you can even enter the application. One thing that we're also trying to do at CSX is onboard as many people as possible to EOS and the blockchain so that we can build bigger communities and engage those communities.
I just see a new paradigm where we empower ourselves and users. I'm using what feels right for our group and what was, I guess, the same values I've built to try and keep longevity in relationships from farm to big buyers is that we want to belong to something. We want to feel we're not left behind. We want to feel that contract, that you're not getting shafted, that you want to be treated with respect and be part of something. So as a consumer, if I looked in the future, I almost think if we had some of these tools, that the supply chains we would be driving them. If we took responsibility of what we wanted and had a way to influence some of these companies, the community is the most important part. By giving these customers an ownership or some equity that they feel they're part of the brand, as the brand owner, it's going to save me money. I always guessed at what these consumers want. If we can pay them to interact and give us feedback and be part of and incentivize something bigger, I'm hopefully going to keep them versus going to the competition. And at the very end, if I can really reward them and build some value, maybe I can read their mind or they can give me some information of their next purchases so we can really have some efficiencies in the supply chain and really meet their needs. So it's back to my roots of a cooperative model, but I failed in the first cooperative models because we did all the work and the farmers didn't give a shit to give a say or contribute. They just wanted the cooperative extra value of money, extra money in their pockets. So giving that control to the user to take responsibility, I'm not sure, it's an experiment. I'm not, the technology's there, the will's there, our relationships with existing businesses will do this, but is a consumer ready for that? I hope so, I don't know. So it's nice that the stack of technologies there that we can move some of our marketing budgets to empower them to jump on board with us and have an experience. And the metrics so far in these fun little games, it's the emotional response that's really getting them, especially when this token just has no value right now, and you get a lot of them, and you just see this value that someone paid you respect to send it, and it actually works, and you can do things with it. So that is what we're going to roll with. It's really, if you can make someone laugh and smile, they're remembering the information a bit more, they're having some fun, and if we can gamify it, the gamification is just the funnest part of it all, to find new ways to sense how people are going to react and have an experience. So you can kind of tell we're having a lot of fun. We're self-financed through myself, so the company's private, so we've had the luxury of good business relationships to turn this to fit some of my supply chain needs. So it's really incredible to see that the stage has been built with these nice conferences and places like this, that everywhere we go, we're meeting someone else that wants to join the team. So you know who you are already in this room. So that's what I'm saying.
As far as what the kind of ideals that brought me to blockchain are, it's this idea of more of a trustless society. We've gone to a point where we have very decisions that are made and then passed down through big companies like something like Facebook, and a lot of our human value isn't being harnessed. And so one of the ideas of why CSX and these blockchain projects are one of the reasons it's such a big idea is because it brings all the value that we create as humans, it gives us a way to monetize it. Essentially with blockchain in a trustless society, we're able to, for example, content creators can make content and be paid directly for the content they're creating or for the attention they're creating. There's basic attention token, there's all these different blockchain ideas that are out there that are being implemented that are paying people directly for the value that they create. And so that's basically why I'm part of this and trying to push this big idea forward.
There's a lot of platforms you generate content, and you might get some type of value. It might help your business. It might might get something in return. But with these, with these newer applications we're describing, you can get higher levels of equity from these applications directly in the ways that Brandon's describing. So, for example, there's a few apps on EOS. There's like Karma and Murmur, where you post content, someone upvotes you, you're getting paid out in something that's fungible that you can essentially trade for fiat money, which is pretty profound. You're saying like you produce content, you're getting rewarded. This isn't like this is going to happen in the future. This is like right now. Like people are building these on EOS mainnet. So yeah, I think when it comes to some of these other applications, the more these engaging experiences you can provide for these users and have them to generate content, you're essentially saying like the user isn't just like a passive consumer of this. They're taking on other roles, and then in some cases they're becoming a stakeholder or a shareholder, such as in our DAC. So as we plug into more of these applications and these DAC or these decentralized community models, we'll be able to reward those users and make them part of this ecosystem. It's like you value your users more by giving them a more equitable experience.
What are the ways that, like in the next year, that we could begin to interact with it?
I say we do a demo. Maybe a raise of hands, who's comfortable enough to download an app right now, right? So we got a couple of people. So it'd be downloading a wallet and just to show, especially on Android, that going through the wallet gives you a host of what's already built. Just for the people that are entrepreneurs and developers, I think then your mind will be, wow, okay, if that's been done, I have this idea, I think this, and then just using some of these apps. So for the years down the road, we're trying to keep it really simple with simple modules. We're doing a notification module, we're doing the pod, we're doing simple things that we want and need as a team. One of the things we're doing is the way we vote as custodians is it doesn't have notifications, so right away we can all belong to a couple of these different DACs and have the role of a board member to sign and look up what is this project, and that's going to become a bigger and bigger job. These proposals, you have to, on your community that people are putting proposals, you have to spend some time on this. So we have to, for ourselves, do these simple things to use the technology. Yeah, who wants to run? Max, do you want to do it?
You make an account on EOS Links. Let us know your account name and we'll give you some KROWN tokens for interaction.
First one to get an account gets like more KROWN than the rest. Just kidding. Just kidding. Well, it's a race.
So the next step is think of a name, right? So you get to think of a name on your wallet. And the name is 12 digits, and it can be anything from A to Z, and then numbers 1 to 5. So it doesn't have to make sense, but you'll want to remember it. I can tell you a couple silly ones, like you can have anything you want. I'll stay out of the next straight.
Oliver the cat for my cat. That's one of my wallets.
Right.
I'll send you KROWN from my cat. You have to stake resources, and when you're buying an EOS account, you're buying the resources needed to hold that space.
Yeah. So Lynx is making it really simple. They're charging money and just buying some EOS and populating what's called CPU, net, and RAM. So very technical, no users would ever want to know this, but on the base level in this wallet, you'll see that they put an equivalent amount of EOS to have those 3 functions of your wallet work. Why that's important is right now we're going to be we're giving a bunch of our KROWN token to the more advanced user that has EOS in their account. Actually had EOS in their account when we launched this DAC. So anyone that had EOS in their account on May 22nd, we're going to put KROWN in their account. And to do that, we use some system resources. So one of the resources we have to buy to run this DAC is some RAM. So we buy some RAM, and it's technical stuff that I shouldn't even know, but I know it because I got to go buy some EOS to run our stuff. Similar to how you heard people will buy some KROWN to run some of our apps. But that's a reason you're actually getting almost the equivalent in EOS in this wallet. The really easy answer when everyone's eyes just glazed over there is sometimes apps cost money. and it's for this one beyond any other, besides any other blockchain. This one you have to pay for that account, but the transactions are for free.
So what's your account name?
Rabbit banana D.
Rabbit?
Rabbit, as in foaming at the mouth. Banana, and then D.
So I'll send you some right now from my wallet.
Now everyone's still back on my speed, so we got you got your 12-digit account name. The next step is they obviously give you a password or a key. This isn't a wallet that you'll have to have like huge amounts of money on. So maybe my security, do you want to take my bad security practice? But what I just did to make an account, I copied and pasted that in my email. I use a private email. I feel secure that it's not to Gmail or something, but I put that somewhere because this is the backup to get into your account. People that haven't heard of a private key, this is your private key. You lose this and you forget this little password to get into links, you're not getting your funds. So it's an important lesson. This is a little bit easier than other systems, but that's kind of the responsibility of being your own bank and wallet that you have to protect that key and treat it safe. We have tutorials and a lot of talks on how to do that. Probably a discussion for another time, but we'll just try and get you this wallet. And those were the 2 steps. Think of your name, copy your password, and then you now have a crypto wallet, an EOS wallet.
NIMA BIGDLY. NIMA NIMA BIGDLYS.
Yeah, if you just Google the EOS podcast. I've got about 120 podcasts since before EOS launched till now. That's okay.
I was going to say right at the very bottom under other, I was just going to mention 2 that are dear to us. EOS DAC was one of the model we followed to have this DAC model where you're incentivizing users. So we work closely with them. The other one's Emanate. They're using a DAC model. They're using different language. They're calling it music co-op. As a music co-op, you should get some of our tokens. If you have so much tokens, you can be different levels in the co-op. You can be just a listener. You can be a kind of an ambassador that you have more roles, or a custodian that gets to decide which new artists emanate. Consumer, if I'm streaming, there's a smart contract. Within seconds, the artist gets 100% of the funds, or if Brad and me want to collaborate and we decide we're going to get 50% of the rap we do right away, if someone should ever dare listen to that awful thing, we'd be getting some streamed money instantly. So just a new way of using not too much friction and tokens to incentivize your user base.
And what was your question?
So I'm very new to this, so bear with me, but I see like dozens, hundreds of uses for this. It's pretty incredible. And I'm just wondering what you guys see. Where will we be 12, 18, 24 months out? What do you kind of, where will this all be?
Well, 12 months out, probably a lot similar to where we are right now, and possibly even 24 months out, similar to where we are right now. But we're right at the tools are there, and we're at the stage where things can be built on top of it. It's just about adoption. There's a really interesting thing on the horizon called Voice, which is a social media platform that is hoping to compete with the likes of Facebook, that lets everyone own their own content and then enables it to be rewarded instead of Facebook making all the money off of all of our information that's being put out, the money goes back to the users in a decentralized way. So that's a big shift in the way that we use the internet. So that's a big example. There's things like a decentralized Uber. It's called EVA, and it's in Canada, and they've launched in a few cities. But if you imagine Uber, but without the company in the middle, there's a smart contract in the middle that executes all the transactions. So if you can remove Uber out of the middle, all of a sudden the drivers can make more money, the users can have cheaper rides, and everything can be streamlined. So the future, maybe not 12 months or 24 months down the road, is
an internet of trust, internet of trusted things is what people are starting to talk about it. It brings back the peer-to-peer interaction, the human connection, without big companies as middlemen. There's still room for entrepreneurship, but not necessarily for as much rent seeking that we see going on right now. That's kind of at the point that we're at becomes a little, in some ways, becomes a drain on some of the how nimble big companies can be and how the user experience is. So things like Uber, the gig economy becomes the next level of the gig economy. You take the company out of the middle of the gig economy.
Yeah, the opportunities for disruption are off the charts. It really, truly is, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so it's hard to say a time. 12 months is probably soon.
And you talked about adoption rates, so really that's the...
Where we're at is
That's the
the
issue.
technology, the groundwork's laid. There needs to be some sort of app that comes out with some sort of network effect. There needs to be some sort of app that comes out that people can just use it without thinking, and then it goes to the next level. And that's why there's social media, to me, seems like a really logical inroad because we're so used to using it already. And if there's able to be presented social media where you don't have to, where it's as good as it is now, it's just as easy as it is, but now you earn money to do it, that seems like that could be a draw for some sort of network effect. In the same way, you think about how credit cards were adopted. None of us knew the infrastructure laying behind how the money was bouncing around through all the different banks and payment processors. We just knew that one day we went to a gas station and all of a sudden there's a credit card machine. You went, oh, cool, I can swipe my card for credit card now. You know, I can get gas with the credit card. And it just happened. That's the same thing that we're on the verge of having that credit card machine put on gas stations. It's just, you know, where's it going to come out? Social media is kind of my guess.
Yeah, I definitely want to add, in gaming especially is huge. Like I can't explain exactly like how crazy it's got. Just with the gambling games on EOS, it's pretty overwhelming. I don't want to go too much into it, but essentially you have billions of dollars in EOS going through these gambling apps. And the reason is that when you play them, and I'm probably guessing like there's 500 of them or something, there's a lot. As you play them, you earn their token. There's like a native token that you actually receive for playing it. It's kind of, they call it like mining, or you're earning it, or rewards. But then you can take that token and then you can lock it up into a smart contract, basically take it off the market. And what happens is, for people that are purchasing the token, the value of that token can go up. So you're like, well, how is this even possible? So that by holding that token and staking it, you're getting a dividend of that site. So if the site, the house edge is like 3%, they're splitting it with the token holders. And the more tokens you hold, you're getting that much percentage. And I think some do it on an hourly basis, some do it on a daily cycle or something like that. But essentially you can provide real-time earnings off these platforms. I could see other apps going into something similar. So you're investing in something that makes a product or provides some service, and you're getting some real-time stream of or reward. I'm not sure about those terrestrial legal limitations or whatever you want to call those, but I'm pretty sure that's not really possible right now. But I could see things like that eventually happening.
What do you see being eliminated? Like you mentioned, a minute ago we talked a little bit about the banks, and the Uber example I think is great. So on one side it's like what potentially eliminates, but then here's the opportunity to grow or create other movements, if you will. And I'm just wondering if you kind of had some inner discussions that you're willing to share.
I don't know if anything will be eliminated, but those traditional structures will have to provide more value to stay competitive.
I would say the obvious, there's not everything needs a blockchain. It doesn't solve everything. In this case, you need a community. It's not a solution. It's just an add-on in a sense, adding extra value. So the most apparent one was, a middleman. You know what I mean? To get out, whether it's that middleman being that app, Airbnb or Uber, or someone that's in between what could be a direct relationship.
It seems like it could be somewhat minimizing on one side with some attributes, where then it would have the ability to maximize in other areas. So maybe something doesn't get totally eliminated, but it becomes more of a minimal impact. But there's the other flip side is there's greater financial growth.
I think an easy way to think of it is anywhere that you're paying to facilitate trust is somewhere that now you can put a blockchain in between. Now you don't have to pay to facilitate the trust anymore, and that's maybe where that maximization comes in. Is now I'm not paying a title company thousands of dollars to facilitate the trust of making sure this is a clean title. That's done through a smart contract on the blockchain. That thousands of dollars now goes to the buyer and seller in some form, or so there's anywhere that we're paying for trust is somewhere that blockchain can come in and make and change the pricing structure and streamline, make it quicker. You're not going to have to wait around. 10 years from now, maybe 20, 10 years from now, you're not going to have to wait around for a title company to come back and give you a clean report. That could be something that's just all within smart contracts.
I have a question about how does it reward entrepreneurs. So there is a traditional model that you start a company and you hope that at some point essentially you have a good exit or you essentially go public or something like that, and you are incentivized to make some sacrifices, take some risk for some large reward that comes in the future. So how would this map into an entrepreneur who wants to, does it provide such an upside? Because if the upside is limited, or then how would one incentivize entrepreneurs to take those initial risks?
So that's gone through a lot of changes since the ICO phase, since 2017, and tons of companies have launched. Currently where it's at is that you're essentially going to print, let's say, 1 billion tokens, and you're going to give a percentage of those to the development team, and then they develop an application, and as that application gains some sort of network effect, and those tokens have a token velocity, they're being used, now they're worth something, and once they have a value, you've driven that value, then the development team can start to put their tokens or sell their tokens in the market and pay themselves. That's like a real 30,000 foot.
Essentially, without doing an ICO, you just put the tokens away.
Correct.
And there's no limit.
I mean, you're essentially having to get your token enough adoption where you're paying yourself. So that's one of the strategies. Anyone else have any?
Yeah, we saw an incredible presentation on one of these sister chains from an existing business that was in the video game space, and it's called Wax. They have a digital exchange, and they started in the having different skins for video games and charging users in a video virtual world, for different skins on guns and different things. And they were showing this new economy now that they gave an example of running shoes and collectible running shoes, where this running shoe, you didn't have to take possession of it anymore, that my digital certificate can be attached to a physical good, and that this whole new economy for entrepreneurs could blossom, that I might never ever take possession of this running shoe, it's in storage, and I can sell the digital certificate. Brandon, he can give it to Trenton, and at the very end maybe Max takes possession. But all of a sudden bringing value out of things that might have not been valuable before. I was given the example of, in industry we do one-offs that don't meet production standards. Well, those now could be termed collectibles and not even delivered to anyone if there was a certain amount based on certificates. We were thinking about simple things like, everybody here, instead of you going home with a big merch bag of a shirt and stuff, we can give you the digital certificate, and maybe you just pass that on and someone eventually takes that. So that was just one example of a new value, the numbers that they put, how many hundreds of millions they've already done in that space and knew this space and where they want to take this technology. It seems like it's almost there, but those new opportunities of being able to bridge old world and new world, and now just circulating the certificate and generating 10 times more on something that didn't exist before. So that entrepreneur, we're very focused on engagement because we just want the users, and as we go along, we'll find these fun things and new teams to really add the next value of a service. But just to get the users on this system, you'll see now with that wallet, you have some tokens in there, you're automatically logged into each one of those apps. You didn't have to re-log in. So just bringing people into the system is the first value, and then to incentivize them to participate. that's our job. So we want all these brilliant people that are, and surround ourselves with people that are more brilliant than us, and be entrepreneurs that, there's always a layer for us to add on to, engage more people. So it's the video game, maybe a good example of, the new space. Now, these assets you have in a video game, like you were talking about, prospectors, you can go out to an exchange and they have real monetary value. So before, I'm not a big video gamer, but I've had friends that are all consumed in it. And if that video game company went down and their avatar and thing went down, these people would be severely, traumatized that they spent all their time building, an entity in the world. Well, now you can own that entity. If you're really good, your sword can be linked to you, and even though it looks like every other sword in that game, it's now non-fungible, it's yours, and maybe there's a bidding war to get your sword because you were the guy that killed that big dragon. And then it gets even crazier because now the backdrops of all these games can mash up. So I like racing games because I don't have to get, they'll suck me into building these worlds and get me in this digital world. In racing, I can just race and drop. But I can get in my racing game and collide on someone else's background and have, you know what I mean? So I think the digital video game world has the biggest uptake because you already have advanced users, you have people that have stake in the game, building things that now can extract their time and value out of that. Just why I didn't understand in a lot of these video games, I wasn't getting that value except putting my time into a game. Now, wow, you're going to be hiring your friends to play that avatar video game to keep this up because I can cash out and pay my rent. And yeah.
Yeah, the non-fungible tokens is a really interesting thing that's developing right now. And the way to think of a non-fungible token is think of like a baseball. And baseballs all look the same, but they're provably unique. And so if you're holding a baseball, you're holding only one of that baseball. So if Barry Bonds or someone hits a home run ball and you get a home run ball from Barry Bonds, now that has some sort of special value, not because it's necessarily different, but because it's something, it has a history. A non-fungible token on blockchain, you can now have a provably unique item. So you mentioned the sword. Video games are now more popular than the Super Bowl, the World Series of video games, or whatever it's called, Major League Video Games. So there's a guy called Ninja, and if he gets the final kill in the World Series of video games with this certain gun, now that gun is a non-fungible token, can be sold as a provably unique gun, and then someone else could be using that gun within their video game and playing with it, and they'll pay for it, and it can have its own history that's provable on the blockchain. So you're bridging the gap between the digital world, physical items, and the real world, physical items. They become, you start to blur the line between reality and the digital world, and that's going to be an interesting place for entrepreneurs. You had a question a little while ago.
Oh, earlier I was asked if I downloaded the app and if I was excited, and I hadn't downloaded it, so I wasn't. But now I have, and I am.
Get you some KROWN.
It's KROWN the man.
What's your 12-letter?
Closing comments, team, and again, thank you so much for coming. I just can't thank you enough.
Huge component that's coming to EOS is identity layer solutions. And that's going to be a big deal for onboarding people and verifying that they are who they say they are. And along with that, reputation. And we're not going to get too much into that, but you'll see it with this voice.com app whenever that ends up coming out. There's going to be a very unique solution for onboarding to create verified, authentic users. It's really, really cool.
Which means that you're talking to a human on the internet and not like an army of bots, which changes the way that we use the internet.
And I would say I'd like to, Kai can give you some of the places to follow us at, but I would bribe you to pass on some of these tokens to someone that would appreciate it and join our Telegram group and get more of these just for fun interactions, just to see if you're an entrepreneur or developer, just to use it. And it's kind of nice at the right time to get that kind of experience from someone else, yeah, it's nice. There's a lot of zeros. It's not worth anything, but so I urge you to do that, and that's what we're sponsoring and bribing and doing next. So they're there for the taking if you want to play around. And if any of this attracts you on, you want to do something, need some help, that's where the community is. We don't need to develop something that someone else is doing. We're inviting people to join us, whether it's a developer, user, So keep in contact with us. We're CSX. EOS.io. We have EOS San Francisco. We're both block producers. In the traditional world, we'd be competing. There's a lot of reasons why we all work together, because there's only so much time and energy to get a lot of stuff done, so it's way easier to collaborate. And then our KROWN is KROWN.club. KROWN is with a K, obviously, if you got in your wallet, you know that.
And if you made a wallet tonight, try to get someone else to create a wallet in the next week or so. I mean, user adoption is what's going to drive all of this and all of us to keep creating and innovating in this space.
Thanks again. Thanks for coming.
Wait, so this is a fact. You weren't that excited before the wallet, and then you went and got a wallet.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my god, crypto!
Right, it's my first crypto experience.